Of all the villains in children's literature, there are few more memorable and terrifying than the Trunchbull. Sure, Lord Voldemort hunted down, tortured, and murdered muggles and wizards alike, and yes, Count Olaf pursued the Baudelaire children to the ends of the earth while leaving copious amounts of blood and bodies in his path, but the Trunchbull picked up a little girl by her pigtails, then threw her a full football field away using nothing but her bare hands. So if she got a hold of Voldy and Olaf, I think she would be knocking their heads together like coconuts. If you're watching this, then I'm assuming you were one of the millions of children around the world who loved the Matilda book and movie, but grew up terrified of this tyrannical tightness. Or maybe you're the parent of one of those children. Either way, you should be terrified, because unlike other monsters, the Trunchbull was not fictional. She was based on a real, nasty woman the author Roald Dahl had a rivalry with when he was a kid. But unlike Matilda, he did not get the last laugh. In this episode, we're going to unpack the true and messed up origins of the Trunchbull. But this is only the beginning of our journey. In 2 weeks, I'll be diving deep into the origins of the entire story, from when it started as a grain of an idea in Roald Dahl's mind to the final product that we all know and love. So mark your calendars for June 20th. Or if it's after June 20th, just go watch that episode because there's definitely going to be some overlap with this one. To fully comprehend the villainous vibes that Agatha Trunchbull gave off and what it was like to stand in her presence, we need to take a look at the way that Dahl himself described her. And fans of the movie will appreciate this, because Pam Ferris portrays her perfectly. She was a gigantic, holy terror, a fierce, tyrannical monster who frightened the life out of the pupils and teachers alike. There was an aura of menace about her even at a distance, and when she came up close, you could almost feel the dangerous heat radiating from her as from a red-hot rod of metal. When she marched, Miss Trunchbull never walked, she always marched like a stormtrooper with long strides and arms a-swingin'. When she marched along a corridor, you could actually hear her snorting as she went. And if a group of children happened to be in her path, she plowed right on through them like a tank, with small people bouncing off her to left and right.
Festering ball of pus!
Very rarely does a character get translated so accurately from page to screen, where they nail everything from appearance to persona. But what's interesting about the Trunchbull character is that each of these elements was inspired by different women from Roald Dahl's life. According to Jeremy Traglown's biography on Roald Dahl, a fantastic resource if you want to learn everything there is to know about Dahl's life, and one of my primary resources for this episode, her looks were based on the principle of Waterperry Gardening School, where Dahl and his sisters bought plants. Her name was Miss Beatrix Havergal, and she was a lovely woman. For real though, Dahl was friendly with her, and he did not incorporate her personality into Trunchbull at all. However, Miss Havergal had a distinct and singular look. Every day she wore a dark green blazer with brass buttons, green pants, green woolen stockings, a brown tie, and brown felt hat. In fact, Dahl actually borrowed a picture of her from a colleague who knew her to give to his illustrator Quentin Blake so he could draw her exactly right. And according to that colleague, Blake nailed it, besides the tongues on her shoes being too big. But funnily enough, almost every illustration in my copy of Matilda crops out her feet, so I wonder if that's why. Unfortunately, Miss Havergal passed away long before the book was ever published, so she never got to see her illustrated doppelganger, but her iconic drip will live on forever in the pages of Dahl's masterpiece, on the big screen, and on the shelves of select Spirit Halloweens. As for the woman who inspired Trunchbull's icy cold, yet somehow burning hot temperament, she will not be remembered so fondly. But first, I've gotta spit some sad truth. The world is full of Trunchbulls, naysayers who get their kicks stomping on dreams. But today's sponsor, Squarespace, is the exact opposite. If you have dreams of making more money, marketing your business, or sharing your passion with the world, then the next thing you should do is start your free trial with Squarespace and build your website. Because Squarespace has completely changed the game to make website creation easy and affordable. Choose where you want to start from their massive library of award-winning templates and use their revolutionary Fluid engine engine to customize every detail with drag and drop technology. Squarespace allows you to easily list your homemade goods for sale, create an art gallery to display your masterpieces, or schedule appointments with your clients and customers. If you want to see why entrepreneurs like me love Squarespace, then start your free trial at squarespace.com/JohnSolo. And when you realize what you've been missing, use code JohnSolo for 10% off your first purchase. I would compare Trunchbull's progenitor, Miss Pratchett, to a black hole. She was a crotchety old coot who sucked the joy out of any room she entered, but for some reason she owned a candy shop, and Doll and his friends always went there after being released from Llandaff Cathedral School. I should clarify that everything that we know about Miss Pratchett comes from a very biased Roald Dahl, who went through a traumatic childhood experience with her, so it's totally possible her friends and family found her to be a delightful woman. We're gonna proceed under the assumption that his descriptions are true to life, but I felt that disclaimer had to be made considering I'm speaking very ill of a defenseless dead woman right now. In Dahl's autobiography, Boy, he tells a story that he refers to as the Great Mouse Plot. The way Dahl tells this story, you get the vibe that it's simultaneously one of his proudest moments and most painful memories. And the fact that he chose an illustration of it as the book's cover shows you how much of an impact the experience had on him. One day, when Dahl was 8 years old, he and his friend found a dead rat underneath the floorboards in their classroom, and he had the bright idea to sneak it into Miss Pratchett's jar of gobstoppers. And no, that is not a euphemism. They executed their plan that afternoon, and it went off without a hitch. Dahl's friend Thwaite distracted Pratchett while Dahl put the rat in the candy jar, and they slithered out like the little snakes they were. Dahl was on cloud 9 as the sheer epicness of this prank really sank in, but when he walked by the store the next morning, his stomach dropped. The store was still closed, Miss Pratchett wasn't in her usual spot behind the counter, and the jar of gobstoppers was lying smashed on the floor. Afraid that Pratchett may have had a heart attack and died, little Roald Dahl was scared for his own life when he got to school, and the principal, Mr. Coombs, started the day off by calling an assembly where the police were present. But at the same moment he accepted that his life was going to end in the world's tiniest electric chair, Miss Pratchett made her grand entrance, and she began inspecting every student at the assembly. It didn't take her long to point out Dahl and his 4 friends, and it probably won't take you long to guess what their punishment would be. Mr. Coombs would use a cane to beat the backsides of every one of the boys involved until they were raw, all while Miss Pratchett cheered him on from the corner, smiling bigger than Dahl had ever seen her. The parallels with Trunchbull are obvious here.
Use the rod, beat the child. That's my motto.
This woman is taking pleasure in children's pain. Hell, I'm sure Miss Pratchett had her own version of the chokey in the back of her store. Now don't get me wrong, Pratchett was absolutely entitled to be furious about Dahl's disgusting prank, but everyone knows that at least 50% of decisions that kids make are stupid, and it's not always their fault. They're still figuring things out. So if you can't handle that, then maybe don't own a candy shop. And definitely don't work at a school.
My idea of a perfect school is one in which there are no children at all.
Continued in part 2.